advertisement manager of the prestigious Business Standard newspaper. Later, he was appointed the Vice President of Mediascope, India's largest international media representation house, to launch their northern operations as a profit center head. 4 years later, Mr. Bahadur was picked up by the Hindustan Times Group. He steadily progressed in his career and became their Vice President, Media Marketing. He joined the India Today Group as Associate Publisher, part of top management startup team that launched Mail Today, the maiden newspaper.
Get entitled by energy because, and no, I'm not sounding philosophical, because it's energy is actually that guides us in every facet of our being, and that's what I have learned in my little experience. So, welcome to all of you into this management course on behalf of the Institute and the faculty, and I was asked to speak on the changing business scenario and what are the expectations of the corporate world from young managers with a focus on the sales and marketing function. And then I sort of looked back and I said, okay, if it's changing, then what's changed? And I mean, what do you mean by change? Change is a relative movement from one point to another point in some direction across time, across space. And what does change actually imply? And what is change? Our definitions of change vary. So I looked at my own career, I looked at the corporate world, whatever I've witnessed in these 3 decades. I looked around my own points, how I have seen industries moving. And then I wondered, okay, what's changed? Then I realized that earlier our definition of change, when I started off my career, the definition of change used to be measured in terms of years. As I moved along, the definition of change became months. We moved further, the definition changed to weeks, then days, then minutes, then seconds, and as I will show you in one of the slides as we go along, it's in terms of not seconds, it's in terms of nanoseconds. So that's change for us. If things around our environment are changing, it is but natural that we'll have to change. You know why? Because the definition of future itself has changed. The future becomes past so fast that before you can say Jack Robinson, the future has already moved into the past, and we are sort of looking back and wondering, oh, ये तो फ्यूचर में हम सोच रहे थे प्लान करना, and it's already sort of we are experiencing this going across, and bingo, it's gone. So change is happening very, very fast around everywhere, not just the corporate sector, not just in business. Change is happening in our lives, and because the future isn't what it used to be, and the future becomes present, the present becomes past rapidly. What also happens is that human beings are also rapidly changing. Now, you may find this word, it's not a very corporate word to use human being, and somewhere at the end of the presentation I will try and explain what I imply by human being. It's a very offbeat, a very non-standard usage of this phrase, human being. I did not say people, I did not say consumers, I will get to all that also. But human beings are rapidly changing. Or each of us is changing, and how we will discover by the end of where I intend to go. As consumers we are changing, as people who we profess to be marketing, those consumers are changing, and how they are changing is that there's a plethora of inputs which is just fanning at us from everywhere. There's a plethora of media, there's a plethora of information, there's a plethora of access to information, there's a plethora of everything that is around us, right from the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep. Actually not. From the moment we sleep to the moment we wake up, again the inputs are being processed, which actually has, that mystique, that mystery actually took me across my recent years into this entire theory of mind. And the mind is always processing. As consumers, as individuals, as marketeers, you name whatever lingo and whatever our brain and our mind perform work, we are actually processing information even during our sleep. Whatever information we took in during our waking hours, we are actually processing. During our sleeping hours also, so actually speaking, we are changing. Every input that comes in creates a certain experience in our mind, and it creates some bzz, 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 and something changes, something happens, something evolves, and something changes again. What happens is, I spoke just a few minutes back about these nanoseconds and milliseconds. Yesterday evening when I was just trying to update this slide, I said, no, this is 2009, my God. On one hand, I'm lecturing about nanoseconds, on the other hand, I'm using information of 5 years back. I could not find the Forrester study update, but what I did discover was a lot of studies which have happened, which are actually talking in terms of not 2 seconds, not 1 second, not milliseconds, they're talking in terms of nanoseconds. People like such as you, who are completely into the digital mode. You want information downloads in nanoseconds actually speaking. बहुत slow है ये system, बहुत slow system चल रहा है. So we want information before I've pressed the click button, I want the information already on my input. And we want it now. We want it now. And if I may say, your generation has already given way to a generation of our kids. My kids were probably in early school, late school, and their needs have already changed very differently from the needs that you have been brought up on. If that be so, if consumers are changing, it is but natural that the consumer's purchasing metric will also change. How the consumer used to buy, how he used to purchase, how he used to get influenced, all that has changed and is changing very, very rapidly. What it used to be, let's say 5 years back, is not the same as it is now. What it used to be 10 years back is certainly not the way it is now. And what it used to be, possibly because before any of you was born, much before you were born, when the Asiad and the first signs of the electronic revolution had just about to come in the years 1982 to 84, things are completely alien. I remember having got my first mobile set, a fat little thingy, way back in 94, 95 when mobile sets had been introduced, and I got this fat thing, which in that same weight you can actually buy about, without exaggeration, about 6 or 7 mobiles today. With probably not even 1/10, I would say probably 1/50 of the functions. So consumers are purchasing very differently, and it is a factor of it is the subject of many factors why the consumers are changing. There's so much of communication happening around, the price value equations are changing, the buying behavior and my experiences which I have registered in my mind, those are changing. My mood and my emotion determines how I will purchase. And it is not just a question of simple phrases like impulse purchase or so-and-so purchase or so-and-so purchase. My mood and emotion at that point of time in that moment. So the consumers of today are buying in context of here and now. Not in this second, but in this moment. And that moment can be as much as 1 nano or 1 milli or 1 whatever second. That fraction. If what is my mood, what is my emotion, what is my thought trigger that enables me to purchase or think of purchase, that is changing. It is only natural, therefore, that if we are changing as human beings, and I will still address this human being bit a little later, if we are changing as consumers, it is but natural that as marketers we will have to completely look at things differently than what we would not 10 years back, not 5 years back, not 1 year back, maybe as recently as last month, maybe as recently as last week, because before you've taken the latest mobile, before you've taken the latest tablet, technology and the parameters of purchase have already changed. And you feel, oh, this is what I bought last week. Today I saw this full double page spread in papers. No, actually I didn't see it in paper, I saw it on the net. And the stock is gone. Inventory is gone, just one digital exposure. If that be so, as marketeers, we'll have to look at many ways how our whatever brand we are representing, in whatever role that we are playing, in whichever part of the industry sector. There are so many sources which will influence our brand identity, our brand's image. And it is a plethora of many factors, and those factors are getting very complex. The interaction between each of these factors is becoming so complex that so it has become a game of mind, and every factor is throwing inputs to the mind at a pace which is so rapid that the consumer has no choice, and he actually gets stressed out. And I will speak of stress in a different context, not just stress as in corporate stress, he bahut thak gaya main kaam mein, ye bahut thak gayi kaam mein. Stress in many ways. Marketeers are increasingly finding ways to stress the consumer out, to break the critical filter of his mind, and to drive home the buying transaction. If not the buying transaction, the experience transaction with our brand, with our product. Now, when we come from marketing to advertising, there are many factors which are influencing advertising as well. It is not just a question of media selection. I remember when I started off my career, and or before that when I was a client and I used to design advertising plans, it was a joke. Compared to where we are now, it used to be a joke how we used to design advertising plans, how we used to calculate duplicated reach between two media, and I remember the long formula which we were all ingrained into. And from there, and used to fancy that we are a great media marketer, we are great media planners. From there till now, things have changed so rapidly. It is not just a question of print versus electronic versus radio versus television versus digital versus mobile versus outdoor versus PR versus whatever. It is not just a simple question. It is metrics have changed, and when metrics, data has changed. So today is the game of data, big data, and data is available in tons and tons and tons on even the simplest parameter. If you just do simple searches on the net, and I would urge you to do so, just see the immense possibilities of working on data. Data is available, the servers back in the US or wherever else they belong, they can map us down to our tiniest, not transactions, they can map us down to our tiniest mood, to our tiniest emotion, to our tiniest psychographic detail. And it is not funny how each of us worldwide, across countries, across cultures, is being mapped out and stored in little bytes. So all of us have become a cluster of bytes and kilobytes and megabytes and gigabytes, somewhere in some server domicile somewhere, which can track each and every moment of our being, right from our waking hours to our sleeping hours, of how our mood and emotions and thoughts and processes are evolving. So that is the immense power of data today. And as marketers and as management students, I would urge you to look at data processing in a very big way, but more importantly, not processing data, interpreting data, analyzing data. How do you interpret it? How do you make data talk? And that's always been one of my fetish, if I may even dare say that. How do you make data talk? How do you interpret and analyze data for either forecasting or for interpretation or for market sizing and so on? Data is immense. From advertising, if it's, as consumers we are changing, as marketers we are changing, as agencies also we'll have to change. If we are part of an agency, whether it's an advertising agency in terms of creative, whether we are working as part of a PR agency or a media agency or an image management agency or whatever agency, the plethora of service providers who are now, circling the universe of the marketers. So the needs and demands of the marketers are also changing from each of these agencies. People, clients are demanding accountability. Listen, I'm willing to appoint you as my agency, advertising agency or media agency or PR agency. What results will you undertake to give me? What is your measurability? How will I reimburse you? My reimbursement should be linked to your performance, and your performance will be linked to my progress. And that progress can be in terms of revenues, profits, market share, and so on. We'll talk about all that. So clients are wanting immense accountability, immense results, and immediate results, and they do not want to just pick up agencies just basis some very nice creative, some very fancy creative which somebody's design, or some very nice looking ad, and just be or a very nice PR coverage which reads well, but has it made an impact? Has it made an impact to me, my brand, my salience, my share of market, my share of voice, or whatever parameter that I may be looking at? Now, there's a huge choice available in front of each of us, whether we are consumers, whether we are marketers, whether we are advertisers, whether we are on the other side as agencies, whether we are on some other side as media or as PR agencies, or whatever be the case. Whichever side we are, there's a huge amount of choice, and that choice is increasing and changing and evolving by the day. Look at the number of mergers and acquisitions happening in media and entertainment platforms, in digital platforms. So the entire rigmarole is much more complicated than even a Rubik's Cube. And it keeps changing by minutes, by seconds. That's how change is happening. So I love the, when I was told to speak on change, it's one of my very favorite topics also, in terms of defining change. It's quite natural that the marketer's behavior has to change. If everything is changing, consumer is changing, as a marketer I'm changing, as a advertiser I'm changing, it is but natural that behaviorally I have to change. It's not just in terms of what I communicate, what I market. And I believe that marketing is about, this entire game is about marketing audiences. Now, whether we are sitting as part of behind a physical product, an infrastructure company, or a media platform, or an entertainment platform, whatever be the thing, we are in the business of marketing our audiences, whatever be the audience that we seek. And it is a game of perception, it is a game of response. Response means that measurability, the data factor which I spoke about. Perception is that place in the consumer's mind or our customer's mind that we have been able to occupy, and how are the moods and emotions and thoughts behind that in terms of dispositions. So, what is then the contemporary understanding of sales and marketing KRAs? Is it in terms of share of profit? Is it in terms of share of market? Is it in terms of share of audience? Is it in terms of share of mind? Is it in terms of share of revenue? Is it in terms of share of perception? What is it? Is it something to be shared at all or no? So this is perpetually the KRAs which we keep defining and redefining for ourselves, and which our managements keep defining. As young students, when you move out into the industry, you will perpetually be bombarded with one KRA evolving into some other KRA, another day evolving into the third KRA, and rather than get confused, it is to be integrated with the organizational priorities and to be seen in the context of what the organization or my top management is looking at. And that is where the difference happens. Okay? So I spoke about data and I spoke about the quantitatives behind it. There are a huge number of qualitatives behind it. The entire concept has changed from selling to marketing. The core Bible which has existed for decades and which possibly is going to exist for another few decades, if not more. Mr. Kotler's book, I remember much before we were born into the industry sector, and now and later. And that's one of the basic elementary stuff, the first 2 or 3 chapters, and I still have it very vividly printed on my mind right till now. When he speaks of the difference between selling and marketing, it is interesting. And wherever I have gone or wherever I do go and meet teams, especially sales team, but it applies to any team, why sales, why production, marketing, whatever, it still applies. The concept of creating something which I have created and trying to find customers for it. So rather than doing that push, I try and create a pull And I would implore you to not just read it as academic knowledge, to actually experience this in every phase wherever you go. The concept itself has changed of this entire selling, marketing. In fact, the marketing definitions have changed so rapidly, as I mentioned in the last few minutes. Those models, even within selling, have changed, completely changed. I mean, today, earlier it used to be, very simplistically put, it used to be traditional media, the newspaper, the television. Now it is completely the digital experience. We have a case of a mobile set which was launched 2-3 months back and completely sold with just one exposure in print, and it's all gone over the net. 80,000 models sold. 80,000 models sold, units sold with just one exposure. This could never have been imagined by the best media planners maybe as recently as 5 years back. Okay, so there is a need for marketers to integrate various elements of whatever you have learned as students, as practitioners when you go into the corporate sector. There's a need for you to build a lot of elements and integrate all of them into one comprehensive and collated whole. We can call it integrated marketing solutions, we can nomenclature it 360-degree solutions, we can put any fancy word around it. But I would implore you as students, and I would actually implore managers and senior management also, wherever I interact and speak, not to use this as very nice words to do our marketing. These are not mere niceties to be implored. Sir, we have a 360-degree solution for you. So, do we understand the power of a 360-degree solution? Do we really implement it, or are we just trying to put a fancy word around it? So please try and understand this entire concept, and I know you will probably have modules on integrated marketing communication in some way or the other, and you must really understand how this entire dynamics goes and what are the actual experiences of various industry sectors in this. Okay? So the marketers have, their role itself has changed and is changing very, very rapidly by the week, by the day, by the minute, by the second, and as we just saw earlier, by the nanosecond. And if that be so, we have to understand that we are living in a market of dynamics. We can never be static, not even from this second to the next second, not from this nanosecond to the next nanosecond. We cannot be the same. And let me assure you, these are not nice words. I am not here giving gyan. First of all, let me dispel that notion in case it may have crossed any mind. I am not speaking niceties and giving gyan for the sake of it. Trust me, this has come from my own experience, and when I look back and when I look around and when I interact, I find that things are moving. What I knew last week is changed from the time I have moved into this week. What I knew yesterday has changed from what I know of today. Very often we succumb, and we succumb because we think we are predicting the future, we think that we are analyzing the future, we think we are creating the future, without realizing the future has already gone to present and past. It's already moved. So the question is, how do we deal with it as young managers, as growing managers, as evolving managers, as we go across into the corporate sector, post our academic learnings in premium institutes such as this? How do we do? Frankly speaking, it is just this that I have. It is change, and that is the only constant in life in every moment of your being. If you think what you learned last week is necessarily going to hold true now, you could quite well be proven wrong by the environment itself. So the only way to do it is to reinvent yourself, to re-engineer yourself, to actually do a complete renovation of yourself every moment, every now and then. And it is always good to unlearn, and I have no shame in admitting, because the best part about about being honest to yourself and to your profession and to your personality, about to your being, is in being able to honestly understand, introspect, and admit and accept where we could have gone wrong. Oh, okay, fine. So let me now unlearn that. So one of the biggest suggestions I give to all of you is learn to also unlearn. Sometimes it is good to unlearn what you learned and then relearn it in the new context. And that is where most of career derailments happen. Most of career derailments happen not because of as we say, office politics, or मैं तो ठीक था जी, I was okay, you were not okay. Something was wrong with the environment, with my boss, with my peers, with my customer, with something. I was okay, so I was okay, you were not okay. So when we look in, maybe there's some relearning or unlearning that we needed to have done, which would have created a different kind of situation. And as that happens, what is important is that along with this unlearning comes the whole question of learning skills, learning domain knowledge. Again, you are here, you are starting off your career here, this part of your phase of life, to imbibe domain knowledge. Through your internships and other interactions with the premium faculty in this institute, when you go to the corporate sector for internships, and certainly when you start working with companies, you will be picking up a lot of skills on the job as you work, as you experience, as you move around in a different frame of mind than what you may have been used to so far. But it's possible for two people to have great skills. It's possible for two people to have great domain knowledge of whatever they are doing. And yet, one seems to be performing well, the other seems to be not performing well. One seems to be quite happy and satisfied, and I'm using it for the time being, just park my words as very nice sounding words. And somebody else doesn't seem to be very happy and satisfied with whatever the person is doing. And therefore it causes distress, it causes stress, it causes some irritation, frustration, something happens, and this happens to all of us all the time. Okay? Because if you always keep doing whatever you जी ऐसे ही होता था, मैंने तो ऐसे सीखा है, मेरा तो तजुर्बा है पिछले 5 साल का, पिछले 10 साल का, ऐसे ही करते आए हैं, हमने देखा है तजुर्बा, अरे साहब आप क्या बोल रहे हैं, ऐसे ही होता है, हम बता रहे हैं आपको. The moment that thought comes in, it means I am delving into my own experiences, not only using them but swearing by them forever, because that becomes gospel without realizing the change. And bingo, we are out of the race already. In terms of our thoughts, in terms of our belief systems, in terms of our attitude, we are already out of the race. Then we are left wondering, what happened? Oops. And trust me, many of you may come across these situations multiple times in your careers. So far, life was, if I may dare say, was hunky-dory in many other ways. It was stressful in many other ways. And here, when you start off on your academic journey and then your actual working journey, life is going to be very, very different. And it is how you handle that life that will determine what you're doing. Because remember, management thinking is always going to be much faster. As I say, if management thinking is moving like this, management feels frustrated that a lot of people are thinking like this. I've got good people, मेरे पास जी टीम तो अच्छी है, लेकिन उनकी सोच मेरी सोच की रफ्तार से नहीं बढ़ पा रही. I am itching to move my company, my corporation, my conglomerate, my group to some new heights. And I have got ideas, and I want to execute those ideas, but I'm not finding people within my system. अच्छे लोग हैं, अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन they are not able to match my pace. And this is a very, very common thing. And that's how we go out of sync with our management vision, our management's vision. The gaps keep changing. Because managements are not going to stop, because they are there for share of revenue, they are share for top line, share of profit, share of whatever their self-actualization dreams may be. And therefore, the perpetual challenge is that key areas, the key result areas, our demands of our deliverables are going to change very, very fast. As managers, as employees, as even managements in front of our senior management, as senior management in front of our board, as a board in front of my chairman or MD, whatever be our facet, the pace of expectations is going to be rapidly changing. And when that happens, and if the teams are unable to cope up, what happens? The teams start going into transactional thinking. Yes, sir, but this is the thing. But the customer said this. The management feels frustrated. Listen, are you able to understand the bigger picture? So this big picture becomes a big phrase. What is the big picture? यार आप समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं, आप मेरी सोच समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं हम क्या कह रहे हैं. And therefore we keep wondering as transactors that listen, what is this big picture that is being talked about? I am talking from my own day-to-day experience from my 10 sales calls, from my 5 consumer interactions. I am talking here. And somebody is not seeming to understand. Conversely, we have to match up with the mind, and we have to literally enter the mind of our management to be able to understand what they are trying to get at. and realign our thoughts. Otherwise, we'll end up with doing vanilla working. रोज का काम, मैं तो आप क्या काम कर रहे हैं? You know, I have done reviews, annual reviews, periodic, quarterly reviews, monthly reviews with plethora of people across, and you know, through my professional network. I mean, we all come across. You know, it's surprising. It's not funny when you do reviews with people. What they speak about, sir, मैं तो बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहा हूँ. You know, I am doing well, etc., etc., etc. But I am doing transactional thinking. I am not going beyond the vanilla, and that is what many times frustrates managers. So as managers, please go ahead and think beyond your vanilla transactions. Otherwise, you will miss out on the bigger picture, and you will completely be out of the race, and you will be part of that churn which keeps happening. You know, frustration with a job, frustration with a boss, frustration with this function. It multiplies with so many other complex transactions in our personal and professional lives. And before we know, we look on the threats of burning out. We look like threats of, you know, undergoing some big churn. You know, I'm not getting what I deserve to be. But I do not understand what I actually deserve to be. Do I deserve to be what I think I deserve to be? So, the differences are in perceptions. The people down the line feel that they are stifled, they are not getting their dues, and the management feels, listen, I know he's a good guy, I know you're a good guy, but you know, you're not able to think where I am. So, you know, somebody is thinking in one way, the employee is thinking another way, then there's a dissonance, then there's a disconnect, and that causes concerns. So we have to determine, are we a high potential person? I mean, I spoke of marketing people, but actually it pertains to any function, because the focus of this presentation was to be on marketing and sales. But actually speaking, it applies as much to HR, to finance, to production, to any other function that we can think of, to any element of our operations. Am I a high potential person? Do I have these traits, or do I have other traits that will pitch me as a high potential person? People don't just need, corporate do not just need performers. Performers are good for as long as they last. But if the performer doesn't have the potential, unfortunately many of us are swimming in our past performance. पिछले साल सर देखिए पिछले 2 साल से मैंने टारगेट अचीव करे, पिछले 2 क्वार्टर से टारगेट अचीव करे, so therefore, and I'm smart about it. What I forget is, okay, you're good as long as it lasts. Are you potential enough to handle bigger responsibilities, bigger canvases of working? If so, then you are a high potential person, and therefore a high potential person needs to be treated very differently. So you have to understand, you have to introspect where you belong. Where do you belong? You determine at every stage of time, and I would actually implore and request all of you, understand at every stage of life, are you a high performer without being a high potential person? Are you a high potential person and a high performer? Are you a low performer but a high potential person? And therefore, how is it? And when you become, as the years go, as you become managers of your teams and growing teams, then you should do the same process for your teams down the line. Should I be flogging a person just because he is not performing well today? Or is there potential in him for better tomorrow? Can he contribute or can she contribute? If so, then we need to build a different place. One of my favorite models. We have to understand where we belong. Right now, to some of you, it may feel like a nice theosophical gyan. But in reality, you know, as you go through this experience of life, not just professional life but personal life, you know, it's important to know, जो मैं कर रहा हूँ, do I really love it? Do I have a passion for it? If I have a passion for it, am I good at it also? I can have a passion for music, but I may be a lousy singer and a lousy instrumentalist. So it doesn't work. There's some disjointing. I love music, but I am a very, very poor performer. Okay, so therefore I have to reconcile being a good listener. Fine, nothing wrong. Does the world need it? Is there a place? And this is not philosophy. This is actual. I mean, when marketing happens, when you create new products, when you create new product categories, there's always a thing Does the world need it? Does somebody need it? And how and where and what? So if the world needs it, and I'm good at it, and I love doing it, I think much of the story is done. But am I getting paid for it? Do I get some remuneration? Is it monetizable in any way? If all the four things happen to coincide, our purpose of life, and in this context I'm speaking of purpose of professional life, but if you apply this model to our personal lives, my purpose of personal life is met. When we keep wondering what the purpose of my life, yeah, मजा नहीं है काम में तो मैं रोज आ रहा हूँ, लेकिन यार मन नहीं करता आने को, because I'm doing something which I don't love doing. I'm doing it because I'm getting paid for it, that's it. और वर्ल्ड को चाहिए नहीं चाहिए जी, छोड़ो, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, पैसे तो मिल रहे हैं ना मेरे को. So already we are into some different domain. We are just doing it as a profession. Am I good at it? Yes, I'm a good salesperson. I'm doing very well. I'm getting paid for it. I'm getting excellent incentives. So I'm just doing a profession. So you have to determine where you belong. Are you just doing a profession? Are you doing a passion? Are you on a mission? There are great people. Some of the best minds from IIM and many other international institutes, from management institutes, are actually on a mission. They say, I don't care for money. I personally have met just last month about 3 or 4 such bright minds, Indians who settled abroad, work in the best companies in Singapore and US, and who just come back. And they're just doing something which is absolutely crazy. Because they love it and they feel the world needs it, or they love it and they feel they're good at it. So either they're on a passion or they're on a mission, and they don't care. Nothing wrong. There's no good, no bad. So you have to determine your points, where you will belong at every stage. Don't feel frustrated with what you're doing. But then you're just doing a job, you're just in a profession. ठीक है जी, रोटी पानी चल रहा है, पैसे अच्छे मिल रहे हैं जी, इंसेंटिव, वो जी मेरे increments मिले क्या नहीं मिले, and that is where our entire being remains. You have to also understand where you want to belong to. I just caught this thing and I found it very, very interesting. I was some days back, I was just going through this, and what I read was that some of the professions in US, they studied, say, and they said that this was the Harvard Business Review study, which I was just going through, and I saw this. It is in US at this point of time, it is taking the longest to fill in a typical vacancy in healthcare practitioners and technical or in computer and mathematical jobs or in management, very generally called management. And it takes the least amount of time to get people into personal care and services, construction and extraction and so on. You have to make up your mind whether you want to be part of a high demand, low supply industry, whether you want to be part of a high supply, low demand industry, or you will let the world go, chalo ji dekhenge jaisa hoga, we'll take life as it comes. You have to make up your mind from now onward, because this is career building time. So when you select your courses, as you become part of management, you have to understand that it is not just you who needs relearning. So this is not Gyan, even just for a young manager. This Gyan applies to anybody, even if you're on board, because if you see the study which McKinsey had done, and again I picked this up from a different issue of Harvard Business Review. Most managements at the top, the board of directors, the CFOs, they still do not understand or they still do not support the digital framework. And this is US. This is US. Imagine what will be in a still developing country like India, where boards and senior management are still trying to grapple with what this digital revolution means. So as young managers, it is your job to understand that somebody out there who's sitting on that seat out there probably still may not be able to appreciate or understand what's happening in the world. But it's okay. It's okay. You have to then coach and mentor and apply your own experience and your own learning into that. Like I said a while back, nothing is permanent. You are good as long as it lasts, and beyond that, well, bazooka. You're gone. So you have to understand why people's careers derail. And it's interesting. About more than 1/3 of careers derail because we have not been able to change. We have not been fast enough in changing to the situations. Another 1/3 happens because I was not able to survive in politics. Now that seems a bizarre enough reason, but it's a very common enough reason. in the corporate sector, if you speak to people, 90% will probably, or 70% or 60% or some huge percentage will say, हाँ जी मैं politics में survive नहीं कर पाएगी. The point is, do I understand dynamics? Do I understand my own learnings? Do I understand the needs of my environment? I do not have to be part of that intangible entity called politics. But what did I do to groom, learn, unlearn for myself? Was I able to handle my system better? Was I able to manage my environment better? And that is where the big differentiator, otherwise careers will derail. And before you know, you would already be there. Next part, you have to understand that knowledge is great. It is superb because it is the foundation block of whatever you are doing. And premium institutes such as Jaipuria and whatever education you've been through earlier on in your schools or and so on, that will help you to give a lot of inputs of knowledge. But they can justifiably do only as much. What you do with yourself from now on, as you go into the corporate sector hereafter, will be about collating all that knowledge into some form, into some pattern of experience. When you do on-the-job learning, then you're like, okay, this part of my learning was good, this part of my knowledge was good, relevant. No, I need to relearn this part of knowledge into some other way. And you keep changing these matrices every day. You keep changing these entire configuration of whatever I've learned, whatever I've gained as knowledge in my school, in my college, in my other knowledge input ways. Whether I do a net search, that's also knowledge. So whatever be my source of input or knowledge gain, I have to now reconfigure and rejuggle it somewhere into a form called experience. And from there, that doesn't stop the process. The process does not stop. Where you want to go is, now you have to see, does my intellect and my intuition, as we say in mind therapy, the front third eye chakra and the back third eye chakra, my intuition and intellect, does it balance together? I have great creativity, but I am not able to execute it. I am able to execute, मैं तो execute कर सकता हूँ, मैं execute बहुत अच्छा कर सकता हूँ. Create जी आप करने को बता दो. And I have worked with a lot of excellent sales managers. I worked with excellent marketing people, and I still do. Who says, sir, मेरे को घोड़े की तरह दौड़ा दो. Sir आप बता दो क्या करना है, मैं target achieve करके जाऊँगा आपको मैं. But he is good as long as he is able to understand it. She is good only as long as she is able to understand it. And after that, the moment some change happens in the environment, that everything, that target achievement, that excellent sales person, that excellent marketing person, that excellent production person, that excellent finance person, everything is gone for a toss. So you have to be creatively using that knowledge, creatively leveraging upon your experience to create something new all the time. And then what I actually should have added on here is not just creativity, but the ability to execute that creativity. Action without planning and creation is of little use. Then you can just be a good creator and you need not be a good implementer. Companies today want everything out of you and more. So you have to be tuned to that. मैं तो जी अपना job कर रहा हूँ. Because, and why I'm saying all this is because when you are at the dusk of your professional careers, you should not have dying thoughts. When I say dying thoughts, I mean in terms of your professional death, because all of us have to move on from our corporate careers, move on from our professional careers. And at that stage, when we look back at the last 30 years, the last 40 years, the last 45 years or whatever we did, the last 50 years or whatever we did, you should not think, listen, had I done it so and so way, I would have been so different. यार मेरी जिंदगी बदल जाती यार, मैंने वहाँ पे कुछ गड़बड़ कर गई मैं कुछ गड़बड़ कर गया वहाँ पे. It's very, very important to understand. And this is what is one of my beliefs. Then the mind has only regrets. I wish I had handled that boss. I wish I had handled that job. I wish I had, leveraged upon that portfolio. I wish I had taken up that opportunity which was given my way to start up a new project in my company differently. And then we are all left wondering, why did I go wrong? What could I have done? Too late by then. Better luck some other time for somebody else. So it's for you to decide which is the point of reference that you belong to. You decide. You want to be on the rock? You're going to be off the rock? You're going to get back onto ground? You're going to stay there? Or if the rock falls, you're going to be hanging in mid-air? Or somewhere you're going to disappear down or disappear wherever. in your professional careers. Okay? Remember what I said right at the beginning? I'll address this entire concept later. Human being, and I said this human being word is not something that we commonly see in slides, in presentations, in the corporate. I mean, you know, very rarely do we hear the word human being. You hear the word consumers, individual people, marketeers, and so on and so forth. You don't hear the word human beings. And this was my one of the early slides. Actually speaking, I would implore all of you, as consumers, as marketers, as individuals, to, you know, because we actually, you know, what happens is, we condition our decisions. We have learned to condition our decisions. We have learned to condition our belief system. ऐसा ही था, ऐसा ही होता है, ऐसा ही होगा. And therefore we see no need to change. नहीं जी, कमाल है. मैं पिछले 20 साल के तजुर्बे में मैंने ऐसा देखा, बहुत सक्सेसफुली चला, ऐसा ही होता है सब, मैं अभी भी देख रहा हूँ, और ऐसा भी ऐसा होता रहेगा. Nothing needs to change. Our attitude therefore change, our behaviors change in whatever we do, in our professional life, in our personal life. How I interact with my spouse, how I interact with my parents, how I interact with my friends is no different than how I interact with my boss, how I interact with my employees, how I interact with other people across cross-functional teams, how I interact with my consumers. There is actually little difference because there is all a game of how we think. There is all a game of how we emote. What are our emotions? And emotion doesn't mean just crying or happy. Emotions can be a plethora of something that happens to me when I meet a customer. As an advertiser, you know, I've met maybe a few thousands of advertisers also. Every person looks at me differently. Every person looks at you differently. When a person in my consumer durable days, when we used to go and meet dealers, and when we used to go and meet you know, direct customers, we used to go and meet government customers. I or any salesperson or any marketing person or any production person of a company, any representative of a company means something different to different individuals at different points of time. आप आयो मेरी value add करी कि नहीं? Do I feel happy after my experience with you, or do I feel disgusted after my experience with you? Do I feel happy after experiencing your brand, or do I feel dissatisfied after experience? So what is my thought? What is my emotion? Does it do something to my energy? Does it do something to my energy? And does it create any changes in my physical body? My you know, cheeks go red, my face goes flushed, and I get this hot ears, and I'm realizing that I'm very, very angry with my experience with this so-and-so television which I have just bought, or my mobile set, or my tablet which I just bought. So there's a thought, there's an emotion, there's an energy change within me, and then it does something to my body, and what happens is my mind conditioning changes. So the mind, as you know, we understand, is all to do about thoughts, emotions, energy changes, and something physical that happens within us. And it is this mind that we need to understand what this mind is all about. You will be studying consumer behaviors, you will be studying organizational behaviors, you will be studying various other facets of HR and marketing and so on. And you will understand what production or industrial relations as your course goes along. And you will realize it's all about interaction, and it's all about what each interaction with people, with objects, with organizations does to my thought, my emotion, some facet of my energy to my physical body in terms of some reaction somewhere or the other. मेरा दिल जल गया जी उसका, मैंने जब उसका प्रोडक्ट यूज करा. Now these are very colloquial statements, but actually speaking, in all seriousness, in mind therapy also, each of these statements has a direct bearing on our being. As consumers, as marketeers, and as individuals in our daily lifestyles, as we interact with people. The subconscious mind, which is where marketeers, hit today. They don't hit at the conscious mind. Marketers today are hitting at the subconscious mind. Conscious mind to both input lega. In mind therapy, we have this thing that today when you put kids in front of a television, in front of a Pogo or a Cartoon Network, they go into a hypnotic state within 2.5 seconds. You put a small child of 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 8 years, and there are studies which have shown that he actually goes into or she goes into a hypnotic trance of sorts. अब कर लो, खाना खाओगे? नहीं. सर्फ की खरीदारी में समझदारी है. मम्मी सर्फ लाना है. क्यों समझदारी है? बेटा तो बहुत समझदार है, कभी कुछ सुना होगा. तो मैं समझदार हूँ, सर्फ की खरीदारी में समझदारी है. So therefore, what you find is that 40% of the advertising inventory targeting women or targeting mothers is actually coming on the Pogos and Cartoon Networks in off times. Because the child is in a hypnotic state, his critical filter is broken, and when his critical filter is broken, whatever message you send it goes straight from the instead of the conscious mind. Conscious mind होगा, देखेंगे संजीव कपूर कर रहा है, अब हलवा बनाएंगे, अब उसमें ये डालेंगे, उसमें वो डालेंगे, वो सब तो conscious mind हो गया. The moment he said, मेरी दादी 30 साल पहले बड़ा अच्छा हलवा बनाती थी. So we are now delving into some facet of the subconscious mind, which brings out the experience. So this is how Safi Kharidari mein samajhdari hai, happens over years and years and years, until every generation of kids, right from when he was 2 years old till he is 12 years old, he believes that Safi Kharidari mein samajhdari hai, Maruti गाड़ी जो है उसके ये characteristics हैं, और माँ बाप सोच रहे हैं कि इसने सीखा कहाँ से है? He has learned from his conditioning of his subconscious mind, and you may learn about all this. And the subconscious mind occupies 90% of our mind space, but we use it 10% of the time. The subconscious mind is 6,000 times powerful than the conscious mind. And imagine, so our conscious mind is X, we use it for 90% of our time, and the 6,000x we use for 10% of our time most of the times. So, if some marketeer or some individual were to attack or work upon the power of the subconscious mind, what would happen? Think of the immense power that they can generate. And actually marketers are looking at increasing ways to rejuggle, reconfigure the matrix of the subconscious mind of the consumer all the time. Okay? So, toward finally, 90% of our potentialities actually lie in the subconscious mind. हम लोग जो बात कर रहे हैं, all the message units which you are receiving from me, from your environment around you, getting loaded, overloaded. When is this going to wrap up? I have come to Jaipur, what now? What's going to happen in the schedule? All these are conscious mind. This is all conscious mind that is happening. When you start working on your subconscious mind and you start leveraging the power of your subconscious mind, that's when magic literally happens. And trust me, I've seen magic happen. Marketers have seen magic happen. I mean, these are just a couple of random examples which I've given. So only 1% people discover them. It is for you, and I leave that thoughts with all of you. Do you want to be amongst the 1%? Which can have the power, which can generate the power to leverage their subconscious minds, and to help exploit the subconscious mind power of your consumers, whichever function or whatever role you land up doing when you graduate into working. We perform differently because we believe we have a conscious skill set. मैं तो जी sales में बहुत अच्छा हूँ. My boss told me you are very good at sales, and this has been my target achievement, 102% achievement, 110% achievement. Therefore, I am very good in sales. I have great knowledge because everybody keeps telling me that I have great knowledge. However, irrespective of whatever we are doing, wherever we are in terms of our demographics, whether in terms of our